Swider-Man, he's getting all the attention now.
Ooh, I like that, Swider-Man. That might be Cole's new nickname.
Swider basket and a foul.
Eddie Casey. Swider answers back.
Swider from deep, laces the three. Swider and one, count the bucket.
Welcome back to the Swider Show, everyone. We have probably our biggest guest, Patty. Our biggest guest we've ever had.
Great friend of mine. In there, yeah.
Yeah. No, the biggest guest we've ever had. From Portsmouth, New Hampshire, a Phillips Exeter graduate, a D3 All-American, led his team to the national championship game. Obviously, Michigan was a standout at Michigan. I'm going to throw this in there because we're obviously big fans of the G League. Skyforce all-time leader in three-point field goals made for a season and three-point field goal percentage. And then he is the fastest player ever to 900 threes in the NBA history. Obviously, you guys know about this guy. My very good friend, Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson, welcome to the Swider Show, my guy.
Thank you so much. I'm going to start by saying there's a few things wrong in the intro there. One, I'm from Newcastle, New Hampshire, so we gotta tighten up the background checks. And then two, saying I was a big time player at Michigan is also probably a fallacy. I was nothing more than a role player for the Maize and Blue. Was a part of some good teams though, so I'll take it.
Duncan, when people ask you where you're from, where do you say?
I say, so it depends where I'm getting asked. If I'm on the West Coast, I'll say I'm from New England. If I'm in New England, then I'll say usually New Hampshire, and then I'll kind of go from there. If they know New Hampshire, I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm from the Seacoast area, Portsmouth / Newcastle. So I will say that, but if you were doing a legitimate wiki background, it would say Newcastle.
But the thing is, though, like my parents asked Duncan where he's from. He says Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So, I mean, we don't have to keep on going into that.
Sorry, do you say New England too? That feels broad.
Because the thing is, I say Boston, Dunc.
I say Boston. I say Boston a lot. The issue with saying Boston, I've found, is that sometimes that lumps you in with the negative aspects, connotations that come with Boston. So I actually I used to do that more, but I do that less now because I don't really want to be lumped in with all the massholes, if you will.
Duncan, how far are you actually from Boston? I know we're getting a little off topic here, but let's just roll.
No, we're perfectly on topic. I'm about 58 miles exactly due north of Boston, in a town called Newcastle. That's where I grew up. That's not where I live now, obviously, but that is where I grew up, Newcastle, New Hampshire.
Yeah, man. I'm about an hour from Boston, so I feel like we can say, like, people from Fort Lauderdale say Miami, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. You can claim Boston. I mean, at least Fort Lauderdale and Miami are in the same state. We're both in different states than Boston, so it's a little bit of a reach. But I appreciate the tree you're barking.
That's a fair point.
I love it. I love it, Dunc. I appreciate it, man. I mean, first off, Dunc, I mean, how you feeling, man? You're obviously shooting the shit out of the ball. Obviously, big fourth quarter last night against the Lakers. Appreciate you for getting that win for me. But overall, how's the body feeling? How's the mental? Obviously, you're coming here with a great vibe and spirit, so I'm feeling pretty good.
No, that was the Swider revenge game. We weren't going to let that one go. Yeah, I'm all in all things considered, I'm feeling good. It's been an enjoyable year. Obviously, we've had some ups and downs as a group, like a lot of teams. We've dealt with some injuries. We've had some stretches where we played really well, some stretches where it's gotten a little kind of like disjointed or in a little bit of a rut. But that's part of a long NBA season. The most important thing is to have that positive upward trend and be playing your best basketball at the right time. So in terms of myself personally, yeah, I mean, it's obviously nice. I feel like I've been able to get a little bit more footing this year relative to particularly last year, being in and out of the rotation, injured, missing 20-plus games for the first time in my career due to injury. So that was definitely challenging, but definitely feel like I've kind of settled in a little bit this year, which has been nice.
Let's talk about that, man, because – okay, go ahead, Patty. Sorry.
All right, thank you, sir. No, I was just going to – my first question is, so I feel like throughout your career, and the first thing is, like, your story. I feel like announcers have sort of become like a broken record with you. You're a guy that whenever something happens, like, it seems like there's announcers that follow the script that say, like, somewhat of the same thing. like I said, the first thing was the story. I asked you off camera if I could ask you about that. I'm definitely going to. The listeners will not be surprised to hear that. But every time I tune into a Heat game this year, it feels like, last night in the first quarter, you make a play off the dribble, you go in, you make a good pass, you throw an oop to Bam. And I feel like there's a lot of, Duncan Robinson has started to expand his game this year, which I, like from watching you in the past, it feels like you've been able to do that. It's just more so your role this year. But, and it seems like the finals last year was kind of like the first time you started to really, do that within the offense. So was that like a concerted effort in the offseason? Was it feedback from the coaching staff, or is it more so just kind of like your role within the team this year that you're starting to not just be like a three-point shooting type of guy?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start by touching on the first part of your question, which is the announcer thing. Understandably, there's a lot of prep that goes into games for these guys. So it makes sense that they kind of would go after the low-hanging fruit. I mean, because I personally feel like it's played out a little bit, but I also understand, and we don't get a lot of national TV games, so I understand, when an ESPN crew or TNT crew comes through, and that is kind of maybe the thing that might jump out just in terms of, my game doing a little bit more than just shooting threes. I mean, in the past, it was pretty egregious. I mean, I remember my first year really playing, I would go like 3-4 game stretches without taking a 2-pointer. So from that standpoint, like, the NBA community really kind of got to know me as somebody that could just shoot. So I'm not like surprised that people are surprised. I think I've always kind of been capable of doing a little bit more, but I think it's important to understand that there's like a progression to getting on the floor, to becoming an impactful player. And, maybe what's being asked of me now is different than what was being asked of me when I was first initially really trying to find my way onto the floor. So, in terms of the actual ability, I feel like I've always had more than maybe what I've shown, but a lot of guys probably feel that way. And it takes opportunity and situation to, really kind of showcase more of what you're capable of. And I think the biggest shift this year has more so been between the ears, like the mental shift of, all right, I'm going to go out there and just try to be a basketball player, not somebody that's just going to chuck threes. Obviously knowing that everything is going to be predicated off of my ability to shoot, and then really kind of like letting my game go from there, playing off of the threat of shooting, but then knowing that, all right, people are going to be closing out tight. Like, I have an ability to get in the paint, not because I'm, so fast or quick, but more so because defenses are always going to overreact to a shot fake or, me moving around the 3-point line. So, from that standpoint, I think the biggest shift, obviously there's improvement that's taken place over time, and that's part of, off seasons and in-season work. But I think the biggest shift going into this year was really the kind of mental approach and shift.
Dunc, obviously we've talked about this in extent, but do you feel that Spo kind of trusts your judgment a lot more now? We've talked about this a lot, but like initially early on, like you were used as a 3-point trigger. You were solely used as to come off, shoot threes, and sometimes you were running around the 3-point line or going in. And I've ran into this as well, like going into the lane and like, what do I do in here? Right.
Yeah.
And now it's like, instead of Spo yelling and Quinny yelling at you to shoot it every single time you touch it, it's like, oh, I trust his judgment now. He gets downhill, he throws an oop, like you're way more comfortable with it. You think that's a big part of it as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a give and take, right? I mean, you have to earn trust. You have to carve out a role to the point where you're able to kind of get the freedom to show a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, I think also there's also a point that you kind of get to, or that I've gotten to, where you're able to unlock your own sort of freedom, in between the ears. And a big part of that is confidence driven. And then for me, like, from full transparency, another big part of that was having gone through some tough times, some adversity, and, knowing what it feels like to be in a situation where you're like really struggling, not playing with the rhythm that you want. And, for me now, it's like I've built more resolve and confidence having gone through that, to the point where when I am out there, I know I gotta like be true to my game and be true to who I am as a player, because that's ultimately gonna unlock the best version of myself. So I definitely, I give a ton of credit to the organization and SPO, particularly early on, giving me a runway and a leash to really go out there and be aggressive. And from there, obviously, it's grown over time. I mean, he coaches me differently now that I'm a little bit older, and just has a little bit more trust, a little bit more freedom than when I was a younger player, and he was just kind of like on me, and I don't mean on me always in a negative sense, on me to shoot, on me to be aggressive, on me to let it fly. Now I think he just kind of understands. We have a little bit of an unspoken thing there as well now too.
100%, Patty. I was given these horror stories of training camp. Not horror stories, but Duncan told me going into training camp, he's like, there's going to be this one drill where he's like, I will guarantee that you will be on the other team. You'll be on the scout team for this. You're going to go on the scout team. You're going to have a red jersey on, and they're going to tell you to shoot the three every single time you touch it. And if you turn down a three, they're going to start yelling at you. And it's a transition drill for the starters and the rotation players to make sure that they're taking the threes in transition, finding the shooter, taking away the paint touches and all those things. So what happens? Second day, we do this drill, and I did not turn down a single look. And
yeah, where does the horror come in there?
The horror comes in where Duncan, I guess, turned down two or three looks in his first camp because he was trying to be cerebral. He's trying to think the game and all these different things. And Duncan was like, "Do not turn down a shot because they're gonna rip your head off." So Duncan helped me out a lot in that aspect. I didn't turn down a shot, and they were very happy about that.
No, it's been cool for me, man. Obviously, both of us being New England guys, and then also kind of having the same build and skill set. It's been cool for me having already gone through, the early progressions of a Miami Heat training camp, and then you being on the cusp of your first, training camp season and everything. Like, I feel like I've been able to kind of give you the answers to some of the tests, which has been fun for me because, I'm not saying I didn't necessarily have that, because I had really good mentorship and vets too. Yeah. But, how we play is unique and specific. It looks different. Like, we were just joking the other day. Like, I used to tell Derek Jones that D. Jones and I like play a different sport. Like, what he does on the court, I don't ever do even remotely close. And quite honestly, like, same thing. Like, he doesn't think the game the same way as me. He doesn't have to move the same way. Like, all these sorts of things. So it's been fun for me to watch. I mean, the great thing about you, man, like, you were far ahead of where I was when I was first getting to Miami, just in terms of like the big thing being like the confidence, like understanding that if I'm going to be out there, like, I got to let that thing fly. Like, I loved, like, one of my favorite things, I don't even know if I ever said this to you, was one of our preseason games, you kind of got loose there in maybe a fourth quarter or something, in a post-game press conference. You're like, I think I'm the best shooter in the world. Like, that got me hyped up to the point where, like, I just was not there at that point in my career, to the point where, like, it took other people around me to breathe that into me, and to see that you're already at that point. Like, man, I mean, when I say this, like, you're steps ahead for sure.
I appreciate that, man. You've obviously been a big help to me, and I think every single reporter in training camp asked me and asked you about our relationship and how much you're mentoring me, and I give you a lot of credit, because it would have been easy for you to be like, oh, he kind of plays like me. Like, I saw how it kind of went. Not that Max took your spot or anything like that, but I kind of saw how this went with Max. Let me just be on my own time. But Duncan was more than gracious enough to, hey, Cole, come and work out with me at night. Cole, come in, like, any questions that you have about anything, come to me with it, because he's been so gracious enough to answer. And obviously, I'm rooting for him 2 times as hard when he's in the game. And me, him, and Kevin are going back and forth about our shots. We shoot after every single shoot around together. So it's been a great collaboration and relationship.
I think players mention on this podcast, and even like just through text and conversation with Swider since he was in the NBA, one is probably LeBron due to last year, and I actually think you're number 2. Like, just random, like, name drops and, like, comparisons. And, like, this summer, like, I don't know, when the Heat became, like, an option, Swider was, like, fired up. He's like, I mean, Duncan did it there. Like, this is definitely the best situation for me. So I definitely second that notion that you guys are going off of.
So Patty knows this. When I was picking out a spot, I created like this document basically of like all the pros and cons of every single team, right? So whatever, Boston, certain check like pros and cons, Miami pros and cons, Milwaukee pros and cons. The biggest pro of Miami was Duncan Robinson. The biggest con of Miami was Duncan Robinson, right? Because it's like, all right, like I'm exactly what they want. Will they put me on the same team as Duncan Robinson, right? So obviously it's worked out. It's been great, and Doug has been an amazing mentor for me so far.
Well, good news for you, man. I'm perpetually on the trade block, according to NBA media. So, anything could happen here in the future. But nah, man, I definitely know where you're coming from. I mean, it's a weird dynamic, obviously, because the NBA is such a cutthroat league, right? And something's always got to give in terms of numbers, especially every year they're going to try to fit, 35, 40 new guys into the NBA. And just from a numbers standpoint, like something's got to give. But I will say, like at other points in my career, I have been kind of had that like scarcity mindset, of like, oh, I got to keep it tight to the vest, or like if I'm going to the gym, I got to do it on my own time because like I want to improve and behind the scenes, all that sort of stuff. And having gone through ups, downs, and kind of everything in between, I think you eventually, and I don't think I'm like a full blown old head yet. I'm only 29, but I do think I've gotten to the point where like part of the rewarding aspect of this is like being able to pay it forward. There's a unique aspect to that too that's rewarding in a different way than just playing well or extending your career. And at the same time, like that just abundance mindset aspect of it, I believe there's like a karma to it as well. So you've been awesome to have with the team, and it's been fun to follow you, when you get your opportunities in the G League, and seeing you make the most of your opportunities in preseason, all that sort of stuff.
It seems like, sticking to that point, it seems like you have become one of the handful of guys in the league that, like, there's a lot of Cole Swiders that are in college or in high school, and they've seen your like meteoric rise in the last couple of years, and they're like, all right, that's kind of a blueprint that I could follow. And I feel like even on draft night now, you see like 3 guys that get drafted. It's like, oh, well, the Pacers are drafting this guy. I don't know, like, not to name anyone's name. I'm not even thinking of anyone specific, but it's like he could maybe be like a Duncan Robinson type of guy in the league. Do you sort of take that, like, do you wear that as a badge of honor, or are you like, well, screw that? I mean, that's kind of underselling me if there's 3 guys in the draft that like you're trying to be like me.
Nah, dude, badge of honor for sure. I mean, it's kind of like surreal. It's weird because I remember coming up, and that's, I'm sure, Cole, you went through that too, like when you're in pre-draft interviews and all this sort of stuff. GMs, front offices, like everyone loves asking you, all right, well, like, how do you see yourself fit? And like being able to like vocalize that, I think, is an important aspect because it kind of lends some insight into like how you think about how you fit in the NBA. And a huge part of sticking in the NBA is like self-awareness of role. But it was weird, man. There's been like a handful of guys that, like, I remember, I think it was a couple years ago, Joe Wieskamp, I don't want to butcher his name. Wieskamp, like he said something to me. We played them in the preseason, and like he just said something like that, like, oh man, like, look up to you, blah blah, so on and so forth. And like that was one of the first times where it kind of like snapped, just like, wow, the kind of like tides have shifted now. Like I was so obsessed with like, all right, who do I play? Like, how can I fit? All this sort of stuff. And then to get to a point, where you kind of like carve something out to where other people could kind of see themselves fitting into it. I mean, it's nothing but flattering for sure. And it's pretty crazy to think that it's gotten to that point. I think the other aspect of it too is like, I think some people can relate to it because I don't necessarily, I mean, I am tall, like I'm 6'7", but outside of that, like pretty average across the board, at least from NBA standards, probably below average in a lot of other aspects, athleticism and that sort of stuff. But like there are aspects of my game that, you in theory you can control. Skill development, all that sort of stuff that helped me separate myself. So it's not just like that non-controllable stuff. So maybe some people can, sitting in their college dorms or whatever, can get behind that and be like, oh, I could see myself doing something like that.
No, for sure, man. And I actually reminded Duncan of a story tonight that he actually forgot. So Patty knows this story very well. I've told this story in the podcast before. But on the night of the draft, literally it might have been 12:30 at night. I got the call at midnight. I had this revelation, maybe after a couple tequila shots, to Instagram DM Duncan Robinson saying man, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. You're one of the sole reasons why.
Oh, that was a DM?
It was a DM.
I thought that was a text.
No, I didn't have Duncan's number at that point.
That makes it even funny.
But yeah, then Duncan 2 days later gets back to me and says, man, whatever.
No, it wasn't 2 days, bro. Was it 2 days? I thought we just pulled up receipts and dinner. No, it definitely wasn't 2 days. It might have been the next day because you hit me late, though. You hit me late.
Yeah, no. I'm joking around. But yeah, no, but going to that point, right? When people ask me, who do you play during pre-draft, or who's an NBA, who's your model player in the NBA? It's Duncan Robinson, it's Doug McDermott, it's Joe Harris, right? And there's a lot of guys like us now in the NBA who have been successful, so that's obviously helped a lot. And I've told this story before, but I'll just tell it one more time. Rob Pelinka basically signed me to a two-way because he regretted not signing Duncan to a two-way. So that's obviously a big...
I mean, that's not entirely true, bro. He signed you to a two-way because he felt like you could help them win and you were going to be a good player. I mean, there might have been some tiny little aspect to the fact that he had passed on me, but he signed you because of you're who you are, not anything to do with me. But
I'm saying it played a role. It definitely played a role.
Right. But, I feel you.
But Duncan, I want to bring it back, man. I want to bring it back to, obviously you had a big time year at your freshman year at Williams College. But even going before that, there was a rumor, and I confirmed the rumor the other day, that you had an offer from a Division II school, Merrimack College, and you actually turned it down to go to Williams College, which to a lot of people doesn't really make a lot of sense because in a lot of people's minds, full scholarship compared to NESCAC where they don't give athletic scholarships, right? Is that rumor true? And what was the thought process going into that decision?
Yeah, definitely true. The late Burt Hamill, legendary college coach, was the head coach at Merrimack, and he was the first, far and above the first scholarship school to ever even consider me. It was back when I was still at Governor's. I think I was a senior, and they started lightly recruiting me, and then when I ended up going to Exeter for a fifth year, they still recruited me throughout the summer, and like I said, they were the only school or like you said, they were the only school to offer me a scholarship. I was super honored, and I had a great relationship with Coach Hamill. He was an incredible person and coach by all accounts. Obviously, never played for him, but yeah, I mean, I think a part of it was I was just kind of looking for a different college experience. At that time, playing professional basketball was never in the sights. It was way more about kind of using basketball to get me into a school that I probably wouldn't have been able to get into otherwise. And that had always been the kind of driving thing behind playing college basketball. I mean, even playing in college was far from something that was certain. As a junior at Governor's, I didn't check in the first 10 games of the season, and it's not like we were a powerhouse. We were, I think we had one other kid that went on to play college basketball. So it was actually funny. By the end of my junior year, I was playing a little bit, but we didn't film games. It was an amateur operation at Governor's at the time. It was really bad, and I was like, well, I kind of played a little bit better towards the end, maybe 6 to 10 points a game, in that last whatever 5 to 10 games. But I wanted to get some film on tape, and I remember my dad, and my dad stays out of the way, such a low key dude. Cole, I don't even know if you've ever seen him in a game. He's really out of the way. And after our season, I told him, I was like, they don't film the games. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do as a senior. Like, I was thinking about, like, should I leave? Like, all this stuff. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to go. It's like, if it's okay. And this is not like him at all. He's like, I'm going to go talk to the athletic director about, like, filming the games next year. I was like, all right. So he goes in, and the AD of the school is like, well, you don't actually think your son's going to play in college, do you? Like, there's no chance. Yeah. So it was like, it was a far-fetched thing to even think that I was ever going to play in college. So when I got to, like, the recruiting process, it was a bunch of Division threes, Division two in Merrimack, and then, like, a lot of the Ivy League and Patriot League schools, not really Patriot League, more Ivy League, were, like, lightly recruiting me. And I would have jumped at an Ivy League opportunity, like, for sure. But at the time, like, the NESCAC was seemingly like a really, really good fit. And Coach Maker, who was at Williams at the time, he just made it a priority right from the jump to, like, recruit me. And I mean, we have a great relationship still to this day. He's been definitely been a big time mentor to me and played a huge role in my development. Really from, like, the confidence standpoint in terms of, like, seeing something in myself that I didn't necessarily see at the time. But I remember him telling me he had been at Creighton in West Virginia prior to being, he was assistant at those two spots. And he was like, I don't care if I was at Creighton. I don't care if I was at West Virginia. I'd be recruiting you at those places too. And, like, hearing a coach, like, have that conviction and, like, believing in me, like, meant so much to me at the time because I just had such a, like, rocky, tumultuous stretch of high school basketball where it's like I just want to go somewhere where I can find some solid footing and really, play and hopefully become, like, the best version of myself. And I just jumped at it, man. I committed to play Division III basketball before I even played a game at Exeter, which at the time everyone was like, oh, why wouldn't you hold out for Dartmouth or Columbia? And I was like, you know what, Williams is a great school. They have a really, really good Division III program. It's like, what am I waiting for? Like, I want to go somewhere I'm going to play. So I just jumped at it, and I'm thankful that I did because I always think about if I didn't, I probably played well enough in that post-grad year where, like, one of those schools or, like, maybe an American East school would have, like, come in and offered me, and I probably would have jumped at it. And then, who knows? I probably would have ended up, like, sitting the bench for 2 years and then, like, being a solid player my senior year and ended up playing somewhere overseas. So it all ended up working out. But yeah, it's been a crazy ride for sure.
Do we want to name names of that AD? What is that
comment? No. I don't even. I'm not coming.
I didn't know you're pulling
heads.
out one of those like rapper stories where they're like, yeah, like they told me I'd be nothing, and like, yeah, that's crazy.
No, I think I wasn't more. I'm not, like, throwing shade at them as much as I'm, like, trying to get a picture of how bad I was as a high school player. Not all of us can be, like, top 30 in the country. Cole Swider, like, killing Peach Jam,
But I mean, the listeners will know I mentioned this off camera that, like, NESCAC story hits very close to home for me. My older brother played at Williams. And I know you've told the story 100 times, but I basically just want to not have you tell the whole thing again, but I think when people hear the entire story, it's like the story of leaving Williams sounds like it would be an easy decision at the time, where you, by the end of the year, probably one of the best players, not probably, but are one of the best players in the country. Another thing you could debate over is I've heard you say you'll take to your grave that you weren't the best player on the team, which people, like, I think still don't believe, but just from, like, people around the team, it sounds like it could be valid. But my question is just, like, the story of leaving there and how Coach Maker leaving kind of opened your eyes to it. And I've heard you say it before again that you weren't necessarily looking to transfer, but just kind of, like, the progression of it and the timetable. It was like, all right, if this is an opportunity, if Coach Maker's gone, then maybe it could be an option.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't looking to leave at all. I mean, I was locked in for sure. And then he took a job in pretty, like, late in the process. He took a Division I job in, like, July, and kind of like classic Division III basketball, we had this, like, 4 or 5 week stretch where they, like, just didn't hire anybody. So we didn't have a coach. They involved me in the hiring process for the next coach, but at that point I'd, like, already signed a release, and it was just, like, a weird situation. And once once the box had kind of been opened, and I started to like get on campus at a couple of these different places, particularly Michigan, like Davidson, I visited Michigan. I visited when I was supposed to visit Creighton last. I ended up committing on my visit to Michigan, but I don't know that I would have left Williams for Davidson. I love
So
Williams.
the option of going back was still there?
Very much alive. In fact,
I
like
actually didn't know that.
my mom really wanted me to go back to Williams, and I think a big part of it was kind of what was known and what was familiar. With that being said, my mom did not understand like the scope of big time college basketball. I remember we were on campus at Michigan for my official visit, and we were walking around the practice facility. And she was like, "So, do they like bring out bleachers for the games, or like what do they do? Like, there's no seats in here." And I'm like, "Mom, like there's a 12,000 person arena like down the hall. Like, just act like you belong, like for 1 second." So she just like didn't really understand it. But then like once she got on campus there, she was like, "All right, I understand like why you can't turn down this opportunity." So once I got on campus in Michigan, I just jumped at it. But yeah, I mean, I was a part of a really, really good team at Williams. I think, like, to start the year, I wasn't even really sure what my role was going to be. I ended up starting, but very much as a role player early in the year. And then as I kind of got more and more confident and, started to get a little bit more comfortable, I started to carve out, more of a role for myself. But, I was second team all conference. There was another teammate of mine, Mike Mayer, who he played professional basketball afterwards. He was first team all conference. He was, by all accounts, our best player. I think it was probably safe to say I was our best professional prospect at the time, but Mike was a really, really good player, 6'9", big guy that just had like crazy touch and skill and feel, and he was a really good player. So I mean, that whole team at Williams, similar to your older brother, like all scholarship caliber players. Like a lot of them turned down scholarships for the opportunity to play at Williams, and so we were good. I mean, we lost like 3 games the whole year, one of them being the national championship. So
Doug, I have a question for you. So how would you compare Division III travel to G League travel? If we're just going to get down into
they're honestly pretty comparable, man. Like
no way.
Is
that bad in the G League?
The one thing is the range in which you are asked to travel. Like we went to, in the NCAA tournament for Division III, we went to Salem, Virginia, and we had to take 2 commercial flights, obviously. But that's just like a normal travel day in the G, man. Like you're just hopping on Southwest Airlines, especially out of Sioux Falls, dude. There's like 3 direct flights out of Sioux Falls: Denver, Dallas, and Chicago. Like everything else, you're taking 2 flights. So it's pretty comparable. Long bus rides. On the G, we would bus from Sioux Falls to Iowa, to other places like in that kind of area. So like really pretty similar. Hotel accommodations pretty similar as well. A lot of hotel breakfasts, a lot of like, just like finding a way to get it done. So the similarity is pretty close, which is pretty crazy to think about looking back.
No, for sure. I just wanted to make sure that the G League, I think it's gotten better since you've been in the G League, and obviously the pay of play has gone up. I think the accommodations are better with the apartments, and everyone has their own rooms now. Like I think when you were in the G League, everyone shared, like you were sharing apartments and sharing rooms.
Shared a room. So, every night on the road.
On the road?
That's right. Oh yeah, for sure.
Swider, you need that. Like Duncan said before, top 4 to recruit. You're not playing like D2 and D3 like we did.
like we did. But yeah,
some hair on your chest.
Yeah, seriously. No, but it's definitely gotten better since Duncan's been in there. But I just wanted to just get into that a little bit. But obviously, after that, you transferred to Michigan. You had three seasons of playing at Michigan, but you sat out a year. What was that year sitting out, and did that kind of prepare you mentally for kind of the things that you may have faced in the NBA? Because I think two similar things. Like, you have to sit down, and then in the NBA, you got hurt, you were out of the rotation, this and that. Did those things correlate at all?
Yeah, I mean, I was super excited for that year sitting out. That was like the first time in my life where I was in a place where like there were so many resources being poured into my development. Like prior to that, it was all, I'm going to go work out with this trainer and pay this person that, or like, pay this to get into this gym, or, sneak into this gym late at night, whatever, like all these sorts of things. And when I got to Michigan, it was this really cool shift of we have like a full-time trainer and strength staff and managers, like all of these people are like pouring into my development and my success. And I was just like so obsessed with maximizing that year for everything that it could be, and making sure that I did everything I could to come back the following year like a different person, a different player, and just be ready to contribute. And I think it gave me really good insight into the level, because I mean, I visited Michigan in August, like say August 8th, and I was on campus 2 weeks later, like enrolled. So it was like such a quick turnaround that I don't know that I would have been ready to play that year. The level, the speed, and everything. And you know how it goes, man. Like if you get an opportunity and you don't take advantage of it, like it can pass you by. So that year was so great, because it was like there's no expectations for me to play, to contribute to anything. It was like, let me just develop and become as good as I can possibly be. And I joke about it, like looking back, like that year just felt like basketball camp, like on steroids. Like that, I was like so obsessed with like maximizing every single aspect of becoming the best player I could be. And I think with really no other focus, like I missed a whole season obviously of playing. So it was like, how do I just get better? And I loved like approaching it with that mindset. And I think it just gave me a huge advantage coming back the following year. And I was just able to kind of come in and be able to like be impactful at that level, because I think the year prior I wouldn't have been able to. But yeah, and then, from there, in terms of, I think it also really helped me establish like habits. I think I had habits before, in terms of working and working out, but I think that year really helped solidify, a consistent routine. And, I've kind of always since fallen back on that, whenever there's been moments where, I haven't been having the opportunity that I want, really falling back on just staying in the gym, continuing to keep going and keep pushing.
Pat, you can relate to that a little bit, right? Coming from U Sciences to Syracuse.
Yeah. Well, the difference is our roles were a little different. I wasn't getting the manager rebounding and all that stuff as a walk-on. But, walking in, like, the players' lounge and there being a fridge just stocked with free food and snacks and Gatorades and everything, you're not necessarily getting that at the small college level. So it was definitely overwhelming, but in the best way possible.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I also think, like, it was my first insight, and I'm curious if you had that same feeling, Patty, of like, it was my first insight into like basketball as a business too, like that level of basketball really being about like bottom line winning, like coaches' livelihoods being on the line, like all this sort of stuff, which I think it just shifts your perspective a little bit. It's not necessarily a positive or negative thing, but it's just different. And it just gives you a little bit more insight into like what that really looks like. Obviously the NBA and professional basketball takes that to another level, because now you're talking about players' livelihoods and not just coaches and everything. But obviously big time college basketball is big time business too. I mean, you see it now with all the money that's being thrown around. So that was an interesting insight as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, that's maybe the biggest difference that I've told my friends and even like kids I grew up playing with, is like when you're playing small college basketball, it's kind of up to you if you want to be good. If you want to fall by the wayside, then like that can happen. And a lot of the frustrations is like there are people that aren't necessarily taking it that seriously. Like you have a trainer that's for 16 different sports, and like there's kids on campus that don't even know you have a basketball team. And then you show up at like Syracuse or Michigan, and every single person you talk to, like everyone in the building is obsessed with the success of like you as an individual, not me as a walk-on necessarily, but to an extent. And then like how the team is doing. Like there's like Carmelo Anthony Center that's literally only for like your success. So
Duncan, don't let him downplay it. When Patty checked into the game, there was cheers from almost the whole entire.
Oh, I was certainly a fan favorite.
And
Let's go.
But the fan favorite doesn't necessarily translate to like productivity. That's what I'm saying.
we had an event before the season even started, and Coach Boeheim said,
Oh, I love this story.
Coach Boeheim quoted Patty Casey as the best walk-on in Syracuse basketball history before the season even started. So
No
this is
way.
This is episode 57. I think Swider's like 80% of episodes telling that story. I never stop him either. I'm a great co-host at that point. I just let him rock.
And the thing is,
That's
Patty didn't
awesome.
even catch it. Patty didn't
Yeah, I
catch
didn't
in the
hear
moment.
it. Yeah. We went to shoot later on the day, and then Swider was like, how about Boeheim saying that? And I was like, what are you talking about? I just heard myself getting auctioned off to like a table of old ladies.
That's all
It's the
time.
best walk-on ever. I thought he was like fucking with me.
That's
Yeah, that did happen, according to him.
That's
No,
great.
It was great. It was great. But obviously, your 3 years at Michigan, you guys were very successful as a team. I kind of want to skip over that part and let's just go into the draft process. You come out of Michigan, you guys make it to the national championship game. After that, you go right into the draft process. Talk about that and what made you end up choosing the Heat after the draft.
Yeah, I mean, it was the draft process was a ton of fun, honestly, because it was a whole experience that I didn't necessarily, expect that I was going to have. I mean, it was fun, stressful, but at the same time, like, just such a cool experience to bounce around and go to different workouts. I mean, I was taking every workout that I could possibly get. I worked out for a couple teams twice just because they needed like extra guys to fill in, and I'm like, yeah, dude, I'll be there. Like, let's do it. So I think I probably had like 14 workouts altogether over, 30 days or so. And, mind you, obviously all those are in different cities. So it was bouncing around a bunch and being in different places and getting to compete in a new setting, which I really enjoyed. I think that, especially because playing in Michigan, we had made like tournament runs and played on national TV. I think everybody kind of had this idea of like what I was as a player. And it was fun for me to be in this new setting where I could really like showcase that I had a little bit more to my game, and that, also like the personality aspect of it, that, I like talk a little bit on the floor and have some like shit to me in that sense. So like, I think that was a really cool environment to really just kind of showcase that. But the frustrating aspect of that was, and I'm sure you probably went through this, Cole, as well, is like you kill in some of those workouts. And I'm not saying I killed in all of them, but like a handful, like I played really, really well in, to the point where I felt I was like, shit, the best player here, second best player here, whatever. But that doesn't mean you're going to get drafted. And coming to terms with the fact that, like, all right, I can show up, play great, whatever, kill this drill, set the record for this drill, do all these sorts of things, but they're still going to fall back on, analytics or college scouts or, all this sort of stuff. And that was a little bit of a frustrating aspect to it. But I still felt like I had like improved my stock. Not to say that I knew I wasn't going to get drafted, or at least felt really strongly that I wasn't. In terms of the draft itself, I didn't do anything. Like I knew I wasn't going to get drafted, so I didn't like have anybody over. I just like sat and watched the draft with like a couple of my friends from back home. And I knew it was really raps when my mom actually went to sleep like couple picks into the second round. I was like, damn, she doesn't. I was like holding out in the back of my mind. I'm like, there's a chance. Like, I remember Oklahoma City had like 4 second-round picks, and I had a really good workout with them. I'm like, there's just a chance that they like do a throwaway on me. Like, who knows? And my mom went to bed at like pick 37, and I'm like, really? You're just shutting it down right now? Like, what if there's like? She's like, will you just call me if anything happens? I'm like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. So, anyways, wow. I didn't get drafted, obviously. I just agreed to play Summer League that night with the Heat, and in large part because Spo was the only head coach to call me before the draft. And he said, like, hey, look, we don't have a second-round pick or a first-round pick, for that matter. They didn't have a pick at all. And he was like, but if you don't get drafted, like, we'd love to have you for Summer League. And that meant a lot to me, the fact that he called and he was the only coach to do it. And I also thought the fact that they didn't have a pick boded well for me too, because I know how Summer League goes, where guys, draft picks are going to get featured, roster guys are going to get featured, and I needed an opportunity in summer league, and I got it with the Heat. I ended up starting all the summer league games and playing a lot, and I ended up signing a two-way, during summer league. So it all worked out, obviously.
Did you feel the pressure during that summer league to get the two-way contract, or you weren't even thinking? You were just like, let me just go out there and just play.
I think it was really like, let me just go out there and play well. I think after we played in the Sacramento Summer League, and I played well in that Summer League. And, I think there was like some conversation of like, all right, there's going to be some opportunities out there, because technically I could have signed with anybody at the time. So
yeah,
it applied a little bit of pressure, I think, for the Heat to come up with some sort of deal. And at the time, like I felt really good about being with the organization. So I was going to prefer, sticking with them over anybody else, just because they had given me the original chance. So I think I signed it, maybe a game or two into the Vegas Summer League.
Dunc, there's rumors out there that you actually had 2 bodies during that Summer League. Are those rumors true?
They are rumors, man. You can find them on film. One of them was on Jonathan Williams' little baseline. That was in the SAC Summer League. If you guys have the editing power to cut this into this interview, that'd be big time. One of them was on Jonathan Williams on a baseline.
I would say the intensity on the defensive end is wow. As we see Mr. Duncan Robinson take it to the basket and dunk it.
I mean, they're not like crazy, like body to body or anything. And then the other one was Sheik Diallo. Caught him slipping as well.
Oh. Duncan Robinson inside and a flush.
So, dude, it was like crazy, man. Like, you're used to playing in college and there's no spacing. Like, everyone's on top of each other. And then you get out there in summer league and it's like, it just feels like there's so much space on the floor. That was it was fun to like see people just be a little bit surprised by that. I don't think I've like dunked since, but I had to do it a couple times back then.
And you did have a dunk this year. You did have a
dunk. Oh, dude, that hardly counts, bro. That was rim grazer package for sure.
Yeah, no. But yeah, man, obviously you've had an amazing career so far. Going to this year, obviously everyone has their opinions on our team. We've seen the Heat we've seen you guys make just run after run in the playoffs when no one's expecting it, especially last year. What do you think the ceiling is for our group this year? I know we've talked, me, you, Kevin, all these guys about our team, but what do you think the ceiling is for our group this year? And do you see another surprise Miami Heat run to the finals? I
mean, I think the ceiling is up there with anybody else in the NBA. I mean, I think we have a chance. We're definitely one of several or a handful or whatever you want to call it teams that I think have a real chance to win the championship. I think that our playoff experience definitely bodes well for us. I think that the kind of group that we've had over these last whatever it's been, 5 years, multiple finals appearances, 3 conference finals. I mean, I think the expectation is to be right back there. Obviously, there's no guarantees of anything. So, with that being said, it's really just going to be about, continuing to build. And, like I said earlier in this conversation, you want to be playing your best basketball at the right time. So I think when it comes to a playoff series, though, we always have a chance, given the roster that we have, the coaching staff that we have from a preparation standpoint. I think it always gives us a chance.
My last question. This has been awesome. Thank you again, Duncan. But you have been one of the bigger products of Heat culture in recent memory, and I feel like the term has like really become like a big thing in the last few years specifically. But as someone who's been a part of it for so many years, can you explain Heat culture in your own words?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely like a media marketing thing that's kind of been like blasted out there. I think it exists for good reason. I think it's kind of been not misconstrued, but maybe like overplayed to some extent. I think it's pretty simple what it boils down to. And I know Cole can attest to this. Like, I think the organization just does an amazing job of really prioritizing winning and then also like maximizing every opportunity. So, an opportunity on a given day is going to look different for different people of the organization. And I think they do a really good job of making sure everybody is accounted for. So, if you're in the rotation, it's about what can you do tonight to help contribute to this win, or what can we do in practice today to help build towards ultimately, becoming the best team we can be. And if you're not, okay, how can you build towards becoming the best version of yourself as a player, but also like how you fit into this bigger system as well. And I think it's really just about winning and then just like maximizing those opportunities. Like I look back to my two-way year, and Cole, I know you're going through it right now because, we talk all about your kind of day-to-day stuff, and I see it firsthand, but it's just, they're going to make sure every single day you're checking all the boxes you need to check in terms of what's going to ultimately, help us win games, and right now, maybe, night to night, you're not being asked to play big minutes or do anything, of that sorts, but there's going to come a time where it is required and it is going to be asked of you. And because of the days that you're putting in now, like, you'll be able to step into those moments. So, I mean, I've been through it. So many guys that have played in big games or worn the jersey have been through it as well. So they basically just have like a proof of system at this point, to where they know, like, all right, if you put in work every single day, like, over time you'll really have something to show for it. And that really falls in line with like how I've kind of always been as well. So it works.
For sure, man. This has been great, Duncan. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast. We have one last question. It's going to be from our producer, Adam Lewis. We were putting together a little trivia, and Adam's going to ask us this one question to see what we got here. We all know that Duncan's a basketball historian, if just listening to the Long Shot podcast in the past. So we're gonna kick it over to Adam.
We had a couple questions lined up, but we're gonna push it back. We'll have to have you on in the future for like a straight trivia episode or something.
I love that.
I picked a specific question that's really like specific to you and Cole and how you came up and how you were now made the NBA. So there's a question for all three of you, and I guess whichever one of you gets closest to the correct answer is going to win this week's trivia challenge. How many active NBA players played for multiple colleges? So they had to play for multiple colleges and then make the NBA and like play active right now. And this is between 471 active players this season.
Who wants to lead us off here?
Patty's usually not good at answering these questions, so I'm gonna go with Patty to go with the opposite direction.
No, I'll start. What you just said was just patently false, but 471. I'm going to go with the old head thing here. I'm going to say that with the transfer portal and all that bullshit now, it's probably higher than I think it is. So I'm going to say 65.
Yeah, no, I think that's actually a pretty good. I think it might be a little higher though. I'm gonna go with 74.
All right. I mean, between international players, one and dones. I mean, yeah. If I were to take a stab, you said 74. You said 65. Is that what I heard?
I said 65. Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Cole?
74.
I'm gonna take the under. I'm gonna go 64, and I'm gonna box out Patty. So Patty's in a Patty's in a tough spot here, but I'm gonna take 64. I'm gonna take the under. So I basically get everything beneath this. So what do we got, Adam?
Yeah. So the answer is actually much lower than what you guys thought. It's only 41. Which is interesting.
I was going to say 47. I was going to try and go with 10%.
It's almost exactly 10% is what I was going to say. And I'll also say that going through, like, I had to delete the players that might still be in the G League but were, like, played a game last year. There's, like, a bunch of them, including, like, there's just a bunch of names. So it's lower this year than it's been in the past. And now, obviously, with the transfer portal, it's going to go way up, I think.
Duncan.
Yeah, Duncan wins.
Damn.
Wait, Adam, did you crunch these numbers yourself, or did you, like, pull this from a trivia set?
Yeah, so I pulled I did have all 5,000 players on a spreadsheet at one point, and then I just like slowly got it down to the numbers that had multiple colleges.
5,000?
Yeah, all time. And then I took active, and then I took.
Oh shit!
This is serious,
What the
Patty.
hell?
I take my job serious. So.
Yeah.
Adam, you're
stuff.
dialed in, and I appreciate it.
I did have like 6 more fantastic trivia questions, but I mean,
Give me one more. Give me one more. I mean, I'm undefeated, but
All
let
right.
me get
This
one
is
more.
a good one. This is more personal then. We'll do stay on the college topic. So on the Heat current active roster, we've got 3 pairs of players that played for the same college at one time or another. So you can try to name all 3, or you can just name one. The original question was going to be name one, but there's 3 answers to this question. So an example would be like, I mean, I don't want to give it away, but whatever, just 2 players.
Go ahead.
Bam and Tyler. Bam and Tyler both played at Kentucky.
Perfect. There's one. Can you guys get the other 2?
On our team?
Yep.
Cole and Kyle.
That's another one.
I mean, UCLA, Kevin and Jaime.
That's right. There you go. So that one.
Dude, Adam, we gotta do something better than this.
All right.
I mean, that's low hanging fruit, guy. Come on.
Yeah, can we are we gonna ask where my coworkers went to college next, and then they can lose that question?
Because I mean, if you think about it, we were gonna do it like private, so you wouldn't have gotten to work together, and someone would have screwed one up or forgotten something. So it was supposed to be a trap game, but that's all right. We'll go.
All right.
Adam,
that'd be a tough look if players on the Heat were.
I just want to let you know who you're dealing with. At one point in my life, when I was at Williams, I could name every single NBA player and where they went to college, and I can't do it anymore because there's like maybe some obscure players that, like young guys, that I just don't know where they played at college because I stopped following. But I used to be dialed in to where players went to college. I just want to let you know that as we move forward, because we're going to do one more. I am 2-0 undefeated, but if I go 3-0, then we're done. I'm calling it tonight.
Duncan tied the most 3-point shots made in an NBA Finals game. How many was it, and then who was he tied with?
That's not fair.
Is that too easy?
That's not fair.
Come on.
Is it too easy?
Yeah. It should be for me and Cole.
I mean, you guys can take a stab at this.
Yeah, but that's not the best.
Listen, there was some that Patty
That's
would
not the
get
best
more
hosting
better.
if we're not allowing the guest to answer.
I mean, is that too easy, Duncan? I can go.
I mean, I know I've hit 8, and I would guess Steph Curry's also hit 8.
I mean, I had 7, so that's crazy. I don't know.
Was it 7?
I think it was 7.
Yeah, it was 26.
Do you know who tied that?
It was 7. Danny Green and Steph both have hit 7, would be my guess.
I don't think either of them have hit 7, according to my research. It's a fellow Heat player. I'll give you that.
Not Ray. Shane Battier.
Nope. Similar year, though.
Mike Miller?
Mike Miller is right.
Damn, let's go.
My next
All
guess.
right, give me one more.
All right.
I can't go out like that. Give me one more.
So all time, Miami Heat win the highest team they have against a win percentage against, and the lowest win percentage against also. So give me the team they've beaten the most and the team they've beaten the least all time.
Well, so that's not the question, Patty. Or sorry, not Patty. Adam, you said win percentage, not the team they've beaten the most. Those are 2 different things. So which one is it?
Beaten the most percentage of times. So yeah, give me the
Percentage, okay.
And you can guess the percentage too.
All right.
That was going to be a second question.
I have no shot of percentage. I'll say beaten the most. Let's say Charlotte. So
I was just going to say that.
Whether that be Hornets or Bobcats.
It is not Charlotte. Any other guesses? I'm going to get up the list to see where Charlotte is, but
Okay, I'm going to go with... Because it's got to be the same division. Let's just throw the Washington Wizards out there.
yeah, the Wizards is correct.
Formerly known as
That's a good shot.
formerly known as the Bullets.
That's a good guess, Cole.
Do you have any guess at how many times out of 100 they win?
I'm gonna go 68%.
Yeah,
I was gonna say 65.
that's crazy. It's 67.4% of the time they win.
Wow.
Wow, Cole's down.
Good shit,
I pulled
Swider.
that one for sure.
All right, I got least though. Least is definitely San Antonio.
That's not what this says. It's the Trail
All right,
Blazers.
somebody else guess.
Oh shit!
I was gonna say somebody else guess.
It's Portland.
It's the Blazers? Damn, I wouldn't have gone there.
I would not have gotten there.
I don't know how, but I guess that's the situation. It's 39%.
That's good stuff.
Duncan,
Yeah. Wait.
Duncan, have you been successful at Portland?
Yeah, I've won Portland a few times. Yeah, we've done all right against Portland since I've been here.
It's funny. Duncan always talks about the games that they haven't won. Like, we haven't won at Minnesota in forever. Right, Dunc?
I've never won in Minnesota. It's the only place.
And then, did you win at Golden State? Was this the first time you won at Golden State?
No, we won. We won during the pandemic. We won there when they were really bad. When Steph and all those guys were hurt.
Yeah.
We beat them that year. But I mean, yeah, it's Minnesota's the only one.
Yeah, well, Dunc, man, it's been a pleasure having you on the Swider Show. Obviously, you were amazing. You kind of ran the show for a little bit, so we appreciate that. Just the normal podcast stuff. Actually, one last question: is the Long Shot podcast coming back? What's going on with that?
Stay tuned. That's all I got to say on that.
Right,
but I appreciate you guys having me on. Sorry if I dominated too much of the conversation, but you guys got a great thing going here with the Swider Show. You certainly have a fan and a listener myself, so I appreciate you guys having me on.
Hey, Dunc, appreciate it, man. And just quick shout out to Harry Rafferty. He's going to be tuning into this episode, so I know he's gonna appreciate this shout out. So appreciate you coming on, Dunc, and tune in to the next episode of the Swider Show. We'll have another big time guest on next week. So appreciate you guys listening, and see you back next week.
I'm reckless, I'm dumb, according to you, but you don't know shit, huh? You don't know how I move.